And we are back, my friends. I'm your anchor and producer, Dr. Robin Falkov, and I thank you guys. You are amazing. I appreciate those of you who've been with us through the first hour of the show. If you can believe it actually passed, this went so quickly. And those of you joining us just now, you guys are hungry. You're hungry for the information that gets that cognitive dissonance that is being used to manipulate us endlessly for years and years now, that it's just so much crazy you can't make sense of it. So what do you have to do? You got to tune out. You can't process. What do? You shut down. It's contradictory wherever you look. The lies are so apparent and everybody is nodding their head as if it's the truth. What can you do? You say, I don't want any part of it. But if you do any of those things, my friends, you're playing into the agendas of those manipulators. So you've got to stand your ground. And that's what's so important right now, because Solaris is painting a picture for you. What we are up against, the unseen that is used as a weapon because nobody wants to admit what they might be feeling or thinking or having pain or stuff that doesn't make sense. Because what happens if you go to a doctor and you start describing things like this? They shut you up and give you medication, suppress it, disconnect you, stop the ability of your mind to process. We have got to enhance these abilities. We've got to recognize that this is what changes the world. This is what saves our own lives. This is what ensures a future for our families, our loved ones, and the next generations to come. Because right now, guys, we are living out the summary and conclusions written in the report from Iron Mountain. The insanity of a war-based paradigm, and how do you break away from it? And, I know many miss the subtleties, and I want to bring that up when I start the conversation with you again, Solaris. And I want to let you guys know just how important it is that we have you out there to share the message, to talk about all of this and wake other people up. Bottom line, over and over, wake other people up. And it is of critical importance that this be done, because suddenly, when people are not alone, they can make sense of what's going on around them instead of trying to hide because they think they will be the victim of attack, or more attack, should I say, as has been going on for years, that those who dare to speak the truth endure. So you're questioning, oh, there must be something wrong with you. And if you think I'm nuts, look into the DSM, the latest diagnostic codes for mental disorders. And if you care about the quality of the food you are eating, yeah, that's got a label, that's got a coding. You are suffering from a disorder. If you care about your health and the air you breathe, that is another area, another condition that is a disorder and has coding for it, which means, wait a second, I know you're all filling in the gaps there, they've got drugs for you. We have just the drug for that. So drug you, disconnect you, and make you very compliant little worker bees. And I don't see those waking up, just going along quietly with all of that. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for your support. I thank you for being the ones that are out in public, out on long lines that are opportunities, and you are talking to others. You're spreading this information. You're letting others know, hey, you're not invisible, and you're certainly not crazy, because these are the things I'm worried about as well. So let's get together and let's make sure that we can work as a unit, get our neighborhood strong, get the community strong, expand upon these solid bases so that we have a foundation that's unshakable. And that is the goal, because as we build, it grows and spreads, and we can achieve any of it. Any of it that you think of is within your grasp, my friends. So at the bottom of the hour, I will be bringing on Kat Carroll of the National Health Federation, because when you have an organization that's been out there for 60 years, you got to wonder, how in the world have they managed to do that and all that they've achieved? So I want everyone to be aware just of how important their work is, because we've got to support those voices and those people putting it all on the line to support us. And that is you, my friend Solaris. Everything that you share, the work you do, the books, the video, what you have made available, you're giving people that game plan, that scorecard, that secret decoder to look at the world around them. And I thank you.
Well, thank you, Robin. Yeah, I hope I can do that for them, at least awaken them to the fact that there is an even playing ground right now. So the more that they know about this covert technology, which is actually the wave of the future, because they've weaponized the world. That's the bottom line. Everything is weaponized. I think I've mentioned THX 1138, that film, George Lucas, one of his first films. But that's all about this type of thing where people are inducted into programs controlled and manipulated through drugs, forced visuals, and forced partnerships. I mean, it's all about mind control and controlling people in a box, in a matrix, in a false matrix. And those of us who stand up and stand out and away from it and are awakened to higher levels of our own design work understand the deception. So, yeah, there's a war going on without a doubt. And the reason I address this is because I know without a doubt that this is coming next. After they infringe on your rights as freedom of speech, the next is going to be, if they can't control you through drugs, medication, they're going to use the technology, because all they have to do is create a signal and interface and interlock it onto the target, triangulate the target, and they can use it for control purposes. They're already doing it. You're seeing people kind of acting bizarre already. I'm pretty sure that the majority of these people that are acting up are probably being programmed to some degree.
And you know what I was going to bring up before, now is the perfect time as well. The movie Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I read the book before the movie came out, and you understand about mind control and conditioning, where you had to be plugged in. I mean, we can't make this point enough for people to understand. The only way, you don't need that plug-in interface, just your unique identifying, what would you say, electrochemical, physiological makeup is his signature?
To some degree, and there's also the EEG. If you have an EEG that's been done in the past, they can store that and use that, actually. Anything that has your DNA blueprint on it, the brainwave template, anything they can use, just about. They didn't have anything on me, really, because I never went to the doctors a whole lot when they pulled me into that program. But they got everything they needed in 2004. So, yeah, it's real interesting. And that's why they're so interested in DNA. They're interested in modifying and manipulating the DNA because they understand very clearly what it's capable of doing.
Yeah, and there's new research out there that has shown, this is another story that I have to cover. It's one you might want to look at as well. The more the better covering this. And it's research that changes our understanding that everything has to be passed on through the DNA. That is how we get our genetic information only. And there's research showing that there is other information that does get passed on without changing DNA structure. I wonder how long that process, if there's some way that they can backtrack and see how long this has been possible, because a lot of the times we never had the technology to identify it. And then you got to wonder, is it not just we didn't have the technology to identify it, but we didn't have the technology to create it and then identify it.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I have my book, Transmutation Through Ascension, which was the first book I ever put out. I talk about junk DNA and how it's not junk at all. And now people are actually saying, and I'm not saying I was the first one who did, but I did address it in my book. But I will say that's all activated through frequency. And that's ancestral bloodlines and heritage. And when I say starseed heritage, that's what I'm talking about. We come from the stars. We go back to the stars. We have a lineage in us that's phenomenal and very exotic in technology when you really look at it. And for that, I mean, I'm sure that's why the Nazis were very interested in mind control, breaking down a target on a psychological scale, because not only was it mental, physical, it was spiritual. There was something in there they wanted. Hitler was obsessed with occultism and paranormal and mysticism. They wanted to extract data and information coming from the DNA. I'm pretty sure of that. And I see them as being, these sorcerers now that kind of play around with technology to a point where they're manipulating and trying to create their own hybrid program. And that's another thing, too. They want to create their own version of what we call transhumanism. They think it's great to be merged with machines because then you don't have to think or talk or act on your own. You won't have a connection to source. You won't have a higher self. You'll just be plugged into the AI, the electronic god that'll tell you how to think, act, walk, and talk. And that's disgusting. That's an abomination.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And there is so much that has been put out there over the years. I'm wondering when George Lucas's first film came out. That was in the 80s, I
Yeah, I
believe.
want to say that was probably in the 80s. I can't remember offhand, but yeah, that was a classic. If people don't watch that one, I don't know what to say. It's very disturbing to watch. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Years ago. Yeah, I've
Yeah, I
seen
mean,
it
I
years
couldn't
ago.
hardly watch it because I was like, oh, this is really bad. When I first saw it, I thought it was really disturbing because of it's really negative and it's very oppressive. But at the same time, if you look and see what's happening right now, that's exactly what's happening here. You don't need to go to a FEMA camp. If they triangulate you with a psychotronic warfare program, you're a prisoner in your own mind.
Yeah, and you look back to research that was admitted. Well, I usually have a construct where, okay, if this was admitted during World War II, the research that the Germans, the Nazis, were using for mind control, for fluoridation of a population to control them, for the crossover of amphetamine to get chickens to lay more eggs, and then for people to be using it. I mean, there's so much that has come out of that that's separate from things like the Glock and the technology that they were working on, and the illusions and the lack of information your average person still uh, is suffering from because they have no idea that these wars are backed by, both sides are backed by the same people because it's
Hmm.
just this game to stir things up. And a lot of this technology that came from the Nazis has been in use here, just like the application of what a con, putting
Right.
fluoride in the drinking water, making communities pay for a waste that is hazardous and expensive to dispose of. So wait a second, let's sell it.
Exactly. They talk about the New Berlin being towards Antarctica, but I swear I think it's here and now, and the illusion of it in America. We took all of their best scientists. I mean, we had the best of the best in these Nazi regimes, and they really did control and manipulate. NASA, they're the ones who are the great manipulators insofar as the screen memory over what's really going on with exotic technology. They'll never talk about a lot of this stuff until they decide that it's so popular and there's such a buzz about it. Then they'll eventually leak a few data streams out, right? But most of the time, they don't talk about a lot of the exotic technologies. And the exotic technologies have been running the show behind the scenes. And this is why people are being slept. They don't, unless you seek, you will never find, right? So if these people aren't looking, if they're not trying to study, if they're not trying to learn, if they're not doing the research, the legitimate research, they're never going to figure it out unless they experience it like I did out of the blue. I had a happy life. I would probably never been involved in any of this stuff. I wouldn't be on the radio right now had I not been pulled into that program. I would have been teaching my martial arts and being happily married. Seriously.
I hear you. I hear
So, I
you.
mean, this
And
was a whole different, they just pulled me out, plucked me out, and threw me over here.
and I'm going to look up when that movie Telephone was released with Charles Bronson. And
Hmm.
when, the general public learned in a movie that, oh, something crazy is being put out there about people being mentally conditioned, mentally planted with a code word, a code phrase, and that was, I believe, "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," that you would pick up the phone and hear on the other end, and that would activate these mind control people to go assassinate or fire upon a crowd, whatever kind of unrest that they were doing. And think
Right.
of how many years ago it is and how much more sophisticated it is now.
Right. Well, what they use now is the AI interface program because what they did to me was all sorts of stuff. And actually, Pert's notorious for riddles and rhymes and programs, by the way. And so is Mossbach, the people that handled me. And I'll tell you that, yes, they do. They use triggers, keywords, pattern recognition, numbers, codes, and serial numbers. I was inundated with that technology in 2004, 5, and 6. And I wrote a lot of it down. I have a lot of data. And I'll tell you, but I'm not triggered. Believe me, I'm such a control freak that no, I'm not playing anybody's game. I'm exposing this stuff. But I will tell you that, and I think I mentioned this too, that the AI system is designed to harass a target until it gets a response from the target. In other words, it's going to keep an interface going and pounding the brain, pounding your neural circuits, pounding you with artificial dialogue, artificial telepathy until it gets a response from you that's not what it wants. In other words, or say if you start to counter and you're very assertive with your countering, which is natural, they'll consider the target to be responding in defense, but it will be considered a threat to the AI system. This is how they're doing threat assessment right now. In other words, if you speak up and you're being counted, they're going to consider you to be a threat. And you're seeing it already, right? You're seeing it already with a lot of these people who are standing up for the Constitution. That's a perfect example. I think they're
Oh
using
my
them
gosh.
as an example, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the next step is you stand up and you're being counted in truth. I don't know how many times I probably didn't tell you this, but I'm sure that my lawyer kept kicking me under the table to keep my mouth shut about the exotic technology. Um, because I'm very upfront and direct and I want people to know the truth. But what I didn't realize is that these people were such clowns in these divisions in these areas, especially when it comes down to the judicial system and things like that. So you really can't expose a lot of that technology to them unless they're the insiders, unless they understand it.
Sure. Yeah, because the lie's different at every level. And
Correct. And
you
that's what
know,
keeps it under control, Robin. If
yeah.
everybody only has certain information at the top and everybody else gets little pieces here and there, but they don't know what's going on, they're being lulled, they get a good amount of money each year, get great paychecks, whatever they want, they get. They're not gonna go against the system and the illusion of. They're happy. They're happy little slaves.
Most definitely. I just looked up the movie Telephone. It came out in 1977.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's, I mean, that's a long time ago where they're trying to get people to understand this. And this, just the quickie blurb is that a Russian officer is sent to the USA to try and stop sleeper agents who will mindlessly attack government entities when they hear certain coded words. So my concern is how, we're looking at so many years ago, almost
Mm-hmm.
40 years ago, and now it is that much more sophisticated. And we look at the programming and the type of music, the type of images, the whole method
Mm-hmm.
of the way the images are being viewed, the sequence, the timing. And there's so much, so many attempts that we see for entrainment.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the average person do?
Well, the average person needs to wake up and snap out of it. I'll tell you that much, and have situation awareness because even if you're not plugged into the agenda, certainly you have common sense enough to know that something's wrong. Something's way wrong about what's happening here in America, how we're losing our freedom, how there's an encroachment in our personal space, our personal lives, our livelihoods, anything. And if you blend in with the rest of society, I think what these people are thinking that, oh, I'll just blend in, I'll keep my nose to the ground, and they won't come after me because I'm just going with the flow. I have news for you guys. You're all marked, every single one of you. I don't care if you're passive. I don't care if you're aggressive. You're all marked. And I think people need to understand that. It doesn't matter if you say something, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well stand up and be counted in alignment with truth instead of being part of the problem and not the solution. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the bottom line, there are more of us than there are of them. God,
Absolutely. And we know more. Robin, just the fact that I know what I know about them is huge. It
Yeah.
may not seem like a lot to people, but I'll tell you what, man, you start exposing the misuse of covert technology, you start telling people how they're doing their manipulation, all of a sudden people are going to realize they're being manipulated, they're going to break orbit with it. And that's the hope that I have also, and also using things to disrupt these transmissions and signals. But what we're seeing now is the drones were never supposed to be here. If we're going to use drones, we should use them at the borders, for crying out loud. We're not supposed to be using them around citizens here. And now all of a sudden you see all these things about drones flying around, and I swear I'm pretty sure they're getting loaded up with different types of weapon systems that are psychotronic. And they'll
Most.
say it's no touch torture. Oh, it's non-lethal. Well, it is lethal because if you cause a heart attack remotely with a directed energy weapon, that's lethal. Sorry.
I agree, and this
Mhm.
is when I first heard of the drone accidents that took place with the propellers slicing into somebody's skull when one of them fell in New York City, and then there were some more reports, and then you didn't hear much about any of those problems. And I thought we have a new industry of helmets that people will need to be outside, and everybody laughed, ha ha ha, that's crazy. But I was being serious, just like I was serious when I talked about the only group that had anything to benefit by getting rid of the bees would be Monsanto, and then they play their hand and they show that they have robo bees. So yeah,
You're right. You are
helmet.
right about the helmets. It's funny. I ordered a helmet, I'm actually making a modification helmet. If it works, I'll let people know. I'm just doing it for my own entertainment to see how it feels with transmissions. But I will tell you, yeah, it reminds me of the space people, who come with the big helmets and the suits. Like, well, maybe they need one to just deal with what the transmissions are about here.
Yeah.
So, but I don't discount that at all. People are being inundated and they're being calibrated for technology and transhumanism, and that's through frequency and diet. Anything that they're using that they're contaminating with the GMOs. And people might say GMOs are safe. I've heard some people say chemtrails are vitamins. Oh, wow. I must be mind control 101 there, too. So whatever,
Oh my
whatever it's
gosh.
doing to your body, it's inflaming your body. It's creating an inflammation. From what I've done, even in research with certain things in the atmosphere, it's an inflammation that's being caused. And you know how inflammation works. So it's not healthy. Your body's trying to fight something off.
Yes, when you're
It's
in a
foreign.
state of chronic inflammation, that's when your different cells become abnormal, atypical. They mutate. They are the cancer cells that replicate and many think are unstoppable because that's what they want you to think. But you can reverse the whole process and get back to a state of health and balanced well-being. That's a whole other long story to escape the manipulations. But chronic inflammation is one of the deadliest things that a human body can experience because it has to break down sooner or later, just like the effects of all the lies where we have cognitive dissonance. We break down and we separate and we just make that not part of our world anymore.
Yeah, they disassociate. And I know a lot of people, I really like them. I mean, some of them are wonderful people that are in my proximity, but we have totally opposite. I mean, my goodness, they're like so far away from me when it comes down to what I know and also where they're at in politics. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But if you talk to them outside the illusion of politics, they're fine, right? But
Yeah.
still, they don't know what's going on. And you can't say, oh, well, they're just innocent. They're not innocent. They need to wake up and they need to snap out of it. And they need to have situation awareness. I think sometimes people just get so wrapped up in their little worlds that they don't want to look outside and see the bigger scenery. But, we have a world in collision right now, crashing down in America, destroying our entire country. And you either stand up and do something about it, or you allow it to just completely go to the ground and burn down. And it's not going to be restructured for the better. I'll tell you right now, Robin, these people think it's going to get better. I'm telling you, unless we intercept and do something different with a new leader, we are not going to have anything here in this country. This is the last holding ground for freedom. And everybody admired America for many, many moons. I mean, everybody always loved America, saying we're the pioneering spirits. We're fighters. We're freedom fighters. We stand up. We don't take crap from anybody. And look what's happening now. People are getting complacent. But beings like us are still here. Revolution Radio is still here. So we do have that fighting spirit, and we're still holding that beautiful flag.
And we still have a candidate like Donald Trump.
That's right. And I'm behind him. I'd work for him in a short minute. I kept telling everybody, if you need surveillance, I'm there.
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe.
And I hate surveillance.
But he might need to know the scope of what's necessary. And I'm with everything you're saying, Solaris, I've got to get, and I say this every time we talk, but I would love to have you back on more often and keep this in people's minds, because they're being swept away with all of this, these manipulations. And if people take the time to look and hear the so many of the things that Bernie Sanders has stated, and people, you're entitled to your choices, but just do your research, please. When someone doesn't take the time to be educated, they believe the mainstream sources and they don't dig deeper. And he makes statements that, well, I am very concerned. I would want everybody to be vaccinated, because if my child was vaccinated and somebody is there that has a disease, has that disease, I don't want my child to catch it. Disconnect.
Right, and look how old he is, and no offense to him, but he's going to keel over, okay? Seriously, I'm sorry, he doesn't have anything to lose by what he's saying right now, because he's going to be, how many more years he has, who knows? But seriously.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know how stupid it is to say that my vaccinated child is in danger, because you're contraindicating what the vaccine is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it is, and my dog just barked, sorry about that, but yeah, Mr. Lex.
Mr. Lex, you are more than welcome.
The wonder dog. I think he hears a bird upstairs.
Oh, well, Morale is not next to me right now, so otherwise they'd probably have a conversation.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Oh, gosh. Leave us with a couple of words, Solaris, because we're running out of time, and we'll talk later and see how your schedule is.
Okay.
What can you break through to get people to be thinking and aware?
Well, I want situation awareness is one thing. Be aware of your surroundings, your perimeters, do the research, break away from mainstream media, and also have confidence in yourself. This is one thing that I've seen, that people have been broken down. They don't have confidence and willpower to go beyond. It's almost like they're losing their will. Stand up and actually have confidence. Support the station. Obviously, support freedomslips.com, support Robin, support those of us who are out here communicating the truth to you. Do the research, as I said, and also stand up and start communicating with people that will have a resonance effect. Start building the momentum. I would say get behind Trump. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but I would say get behind Trump, because he is a really good switch from corruption to something that can be positive for this country. And he's the only one that's pissing these cabals off enough to have them want to go after him. So that gives you a sign right there. And I just want to say thank you very much, Robin, for having me on this morning. It's always wonderful. I'm happy to come back. And then I want to thank the Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. I want to thank Nighthawk for all the hard work he's been doing here at the station. He's been doing a phenomenal job with the live stream.
Isn't he amazing?
Just an
What he's
awesome work.
covered for Oregon and to get the real story out. And oh my gosh, the real stories are just starting to unfold. And people, they're going to have to tune that out too because they can't believe that they could be lied to like that. And we've got the video.
Right. You know what's really interesting? If they're that weak now, if they get hit with anything else that's harder than that, they're going to break. I
Yeah.
thank the spirits of the multiverse every single day that I am as empowered as I am, because I'm unbreakable. I mean, my body will fail at some point, but I'm pretty fierce in spirit. And I know you are too, and I know a
Oh,
lot of the
yes.
people at the station are. That's what's keeping us going. There's a power within us that's connected outside of us that is so powerful and so abundant and so in alignment with what freedom is that we are unstoppable. And we have to remind ourselves of this because nobody tells us that.
Most definitely, Solaris. And I do hope you will be in touch with Maggie Rose.
Yeah.
You guys will just really have a wonderful connection, and she's being interviewed more. So get that, get your contact with her and see about having her on. I'll have her back on as well. I think she's going to be on with John Wells this morning. Um,
Excellent.
yeah, and
Will do.
we need more and more of us to get this message out, just like Hawk has done. From what I see, Hawk's been the lone voice with all of
Hmm.
the live streaming as well.
Yep, he has. Yeah, well, I don't think anybody has the courage to do what he's doing right now. A lot of people have been taken, or well, kind of infiltrated and taken away. But yeah, he's probably the last remaining voice out there who's communicating the truth, just like we are. And that's why I say, you got to get behind us and get behind Trump because we've got to get the momentum going here.
Yeah, and we finally have a chance to do it. So
Yep.
don't run and defeat the success that's within our grasp, guys. We can make it all real. So, my thanks to you again, my friend, and to your patient Lex.
Yes, he's ready to go outside now. So
Okay, well, we'll talk later and see when we can get you back.
great. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.